That music means one thing. Last month, we started off with Oompa music and it rolled right into Oktoberfest. Today's music means one thing. It's Blink season. Welcome and good morning to the October monthly member briefing. My name is Thomas Deere. I'm the Vice President of Sales Engagement at the Chamber, and I have the privilege of being your host today. A huge thank you to each of you for joining us, and thank you for your partnership here at the Chamber. These sessions are designed to provide you with information, solutions, connections needed to keep your businesses thriving. Today, you have joined us in listen-only mode with your microphones and cameras muted. However, we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the program using Zoom's chat box. I want to thank our media sponsor for their continued support of our monthly member briefing, the Cincinnati Business Courier. Thank you so much for your support. We have an outstanding lineup today, and I know you're going to enjoy it. It's my pleasure to welcome Brendan Call, the president of the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Spencer, for the great play-in music this morning, a little Daft Punk to get your morning started. If you were driving to work or you opened your window this morning, you saw just a gorgeous, gorgeous Cincinnati morning it was. And it got me excited about this fall season. This has got to be one of the busiest times that I can remember at the Chamber, and we're going to tell you a little bit about it today. But today is going to be really fun because you're going to hear from our keynote, who is one of our favorite business executives in the entire region, Steve Hightower. He's going to give us an overview of what's happening in his world, which I can attest is always interesting. But like I said, you saw a little bit of magical light in the sky this morning. We are going to give you 4 days of magical light and art in just 1 week, 7 days away from that Blink magical light and art event that so many of you love. We're so glad it's back. And I have to tell you, you heard from Justin Brookhart at our last monthly member briefing about what it takes to put on an event like Blink. This is a huge event, more than 1 million people downtown over 4 days. It involves artists from literally all over the world and in our backyard. They're painting murals, they're installing installations all over town. They're getting ready with projection mapping. They're creating all sorts of surprises for families and neighbors who come downtown and walk around and help put Cincinnati on an international map when it comes to art and culture. And really what we talk a lot about here is the dream of becoming a future city. So we're so excited about Blink. BlinkCincinnati.com is where all of the information is. Right after this, we're going to have a press conference where we're going to do the last answer every question that the media might have about how to get around Blink. So stay tuned in the news. Check out the map on our website. It's going to be just an amazing weekend next weekend, 1 week away. And then right after Blink, our chamber takes the leadership exchange trip to Dallas-Fort Worth. And you'll hear from my colleague, Katie Egan, a little later on, who is helping to coordinate and plan this trip and leading a team that's going to take about 50 business executives from our region in partnership with the Dayton Chamber to Dallas-Fort Worth as we look to explore what it looks like to run a mega region or a metroplex. And Dallas-Fort Worth has really leaned in to that space. So we're excited about that trip. It's something that we do with our board members and community leaders every other year. And when we return, we're going to be looking forward to sharing our learnings and our experiences with our member base. So you'll hear more about it here at the monthly member briefing. And then just after that, a few days later, not technically in October, but on November the 2nd, we're going to host the annual Fifth Third Bank Diversity Leadership Symposium. This is one of my favorite events a year, truly. This year, we're featuring a renowned keynote speaker, Daisy Auger Dominguez, who is an author of a book called The Inclusion Revolution. We'll have top speakers and leaders from throughout the region. We're just putting the final touches on what the agenda looks like, and it's really terrific. It's an awesome group of people who will be coming together. Remember, that's at the Duke Energy Convention Center at 8 a.m. on November 2nd. We'll spend time learning and making action plans to further our region's work on important topics of diversity and equity and inclusion and belonging. You can register online. Go to our website, cincinnati-chamber.com. I hope you register soon. It's going to be an awesome morning, so you'll want to be there. So nothing slows down here at the Chamber. I wish I could come on here 1 month and say, well, it's our quiet season, but we don't really have one of those. So we just roll right into Blink and all of the things that I just told you about. Okay, now on to our keynote. Steve Hightower is the CEO, president and CEO of Hightowers Petroleum, which is a family-owned business that he founded 40 years ago in 1982. He's built the business into a behemoth, one of the largest minority-owned businesses in our region, and one that sells hundreds of millions of gallons of oil every year. He's part of a line of serial entrepreneurs. His father founded the family's first business in 1957, and I had the chance to spend time with Steve and his family not too long ago. It's an amazing group of people who really is dedicated to this community and dedicated to building businesses. Steve's been a longtime supporter of the chamber. He's been a board member, a member of the Government Affairs Executive Committee. He's participated in our strategic planning. He's been a leader in the Minority Business Accelerator, and so much more. He's a passionate and committed steward of our community, and most importantly, he thinks regionally all of the time. His business is located in Middletown, and he has a macro lens on this Metroplex complex that I talked to you about earlier. You also may have seen him when he had his star turn on the CNBC shows Blue Collar Millionaires, where we all learned about the leadership that he's given to his company and to his community. He's a good friend, a great family man, and we're so glad he's here. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank everyone for this opportunity and waking up this morning to listen to a few words that I might impart on everyone this morning. It's been a great opportunity to work with the Cincinnati Chamber over a long period of time. Since 1981, I began to look at different opportunities. I grew up in the janitorial business, as many of you know. That's where I got my background. That's where I got my start in terms of understanding business and being transactional. And at one point in time, I say to people that, if you know how to do business, someone will do business with you. And so at a very young age, I actually learned the mechanics of how to do business. And the baseline was always integrity and being able to say what you're going to do and do what you say. And that's extremely important throughout your career, wherever that's at, and that people wanting to be able to trust you is extremely important. But at the same time, how do you build a business and have rapid growth? And I've always been one of those kind of guys who, did more than what one thing. And many people criticized me over the years that, why don't you just do one thing and just do one thing in your business? Well, when you start up and you begin to start a new business, that one thing may not be the only thing that can feed you. And so while it's good advice, it may not bring the groceries home. And that's much more important to make sure that you're able to survive. And so while I always have done a baseline activity and from a service standpoint, moving from the janitorial business to a union cleaning company that took me into construction, I then began to, in 1981, start doing industrial materials and supplies, which was a complement to the construction company. And as I was selling industrial materials, it began to go into Ford Motor Company in Sharonville at regional purchasing and the state of Ohio. And it was the state of Ohio who began to have a set aside and began to set aside a lot of commodities. And being transactional, I was able to bid anything that the state was actually setting aside for minority business only. And I back up to say that baseline in growing a business and what you have to think about is having a customer large enough with the type of, something that someone would want, being able to create finance that will allow someone for you to be able to purchase those products and or services that's necessary to service a customer that everyone wants is the basic formula to success. And the state of Ohio, being a customer large enough, we were able to look at, BP, who had the business for about 32 years, but did not want to participate, went down the street to a guy by the name of Don Likens, who is now deceased, but he gave me my first opportunity by quoting us that bid, of which Hightower, actually we were Landmark at the time, Landmark Supply Company, quoted and got our first petroleum contract, which was the entire state of Ohio in 1981. People get opportunities, and 4 out of 5 companies in the first 5 years fail. But so you have to understand that having an opportunity is one thing, but turning it into a business is a whole nother thing. And it probably 3 to 4 years later, we got supported with our PUCO hauling authority from BP. And from that, we changed the name to Hightowers Petroleum Company, and thus Hightowers was born. And as we fast forward and we look at the type of, what you utilize as a diverse marketplace to start with, we rapidly try to grow our way out of that. And what I mean by that is programs were designed to give people opportunities in areas in which had traditionally been blocked for minorities and diverse businesses. Petroleum is one of those, and it's actually one of those even to this day that, if you look at the whole country, Hightowers Petroleum Company stands out by itself as being the only national wholesale distributor that actually performs to corporate America throughout the country, Mexico, Canada, as well as South Africa. And so, it's one thing to have an opportunity. It's another thing to take that opportunity and turn it into a business. And one of the baseline things that you really have to always understand is people like integrity. Again, going back to how do you scale? You cannot scale by yourself. You can put, as I start looking at going from one city to another city and from one state to another state, the number of people that I would have to hire to put in the trucks in order to be able to grow my business across a spectrum, it actually took me the ability to understand supply chain management. And by working with the automotive industry, I became a commodity supply chain manager for Ford Motor Company probably in the mid 80s for power tools. And that taught me how to manage versus trying to do everything. And so when it came opportunities and I'll use General Motors as an example, it took maybe 2 years just to get a license or approval to put fuel into the vehicles at GM. After that 2 years, it took another 2 to 3 years of just working and continuing, making myself present without making myself a nuisance to be able to have an opportunity to actually stay in the game now that I had that approval. Business is a long game. It's not a short-term opportunity. And when you work with corporate America, many times it takes years, not days, not weeks, not months. It may take years in order to penetrate some of these organizations. And it actually was in year 5 that I had the opportunity when General Motors was actually going into bankruptcy, that I had that opportunity now because I had the approvals to put fuel into those vehicles. And the only 2 approved products was Shell, of which Hightower had gone through the process and gotten a vendor code for a Shell product, and BP, who was the incumbent. And at that particular time, BP began to change how they were actually working with General Motors because they were going into bankruptcy. And, and that was a time when I had my opportunity to come into Detroit and begin to talk about how we could potentially step up and take over the fuel throughout General Motors. It was a little, I guess, unnerving to some of the people at GM that I would actually be that supplier that would go to every GM assembly plant throughout North America and Mexico. But it was on a Wednesday night at 5:30 that I got the call from the buyer who said, Steve, if we give you the letter of credit, which was going to be issued by Citigroup, who was also going into bankruptcy at the time, they were going into bankruptcy at the time. And I said, yes, as long as I would get that particular letter of credit, we would start. And then 48 hours I had to scale the entire country. That means every plant throughout the US, in Dallas, in St. Louis, in Detroit, all over. And how do you do that? You do that with the supply chain. I could make 2 calls. One was to a supplier that had a national distribution capability for me to be able to buy product all over the country, but shale product specifically. And then number 2 was Dennis Nash with Advantage Tank Lines, which is today Keenan Advantage. And he had trucks in all over the country. And so those 2 calls, again, assuming that I was working with them, they were aware of this as I was going through the process. In 48 hours, we took over all of the plants throughout North America and including Mexico for General Motors. We never missed a beat. We never shut down an assembly line. And from 1979 or 2008 to this day, we still do all the GM plants in North America. Now, if I had to take the approach that I had to be in every truck and I had to have every supply in every point, that would never be able to happen. So, having that integrity in those relationships and working your associations, those are the kind of things that it took me into a place where I had the opportunity to be able to make those types of calls and have those types of relationships to be able to scale. And so to all the small businesses, they get an opportunity, and the diverse businesses more specifically, this is only a launching pad. It is not a means of doing business. And once you understand that the game of whatever industry that you are in, it has its rules of that game, and you understand and you learn that game, you play it just like you would play any other game to the highest heights in the way the game is actually played. There's no black way or no white way to sell fuel. You have to have a fuel there. You have to be competitive, and it has to be what the customer is looking for each and every time. And once you learn that you're not going to reinvent whatever industry that you happen to be in, but you're going to be able to learn and become the best in that particular industry, you can become that scalable company like Hightowers Petroleum Company has become. But you got to want to have that energy. It's like a rocket going into the moon. You start out with a little thrust, and if you only want to have a prop plane and you only want to fly low, then that's how much energy you have. But if you want to go to the moon and hit the stars and Mars, then that means it takes a lot of thrust. Takes a lot of energy. It takes 7 days a week. It takes 10 hours, 14 hours a day. It's not something that's going to happen just because you think that you are now your own boss. Every one of my customers are my bosses. And I take that very, very seriously. And that is how you have to believe, because once you think that you're the boss, then you're going to begin to lose your customers. And if you lose your customers, you lose your business. So we keep customers over a long period of time. And customers like AT&T and General Motors and Nissan and Honda and FedEx and UPS, those are long-time customers that we actually still have over a very long period of time, because we service them, and we service them in the private sector, not the public sector. And I get back to the programs that we talk about are typically public, city, and state, but the private sector is where it's at. They do what they want to do, how they want to do it, as long as they want to do it. And that's where you have to get to in order to be able to be sustainable in this particular world. With all of that, it is still extremely important that you be able to pivot when it's time to pivot. And as I saw my customers, while I was filling up these vehicles as they come off the assembly line, and was able to see how the economy was going based off of the number of cars that we were filling, giving that 5 gallons worth of gas in General Motors and in Nissan and in Honda. But that business started to vary as it became electric. And so we pivoted about 2 years ago into EV charging stations, because that's a fuel. And we looked at gasoline, diesel, and now EV, electric vehicle charging stations, as another fuel. And therefore, we put together a supply chain to be able to hit the market on a global basis with top-notch, solid technology, with engineering and engineering partners like Black & Veatch to be able to scale at an instance across the country. We've got the finance. We brought in the ability to have contracting and installation throughout the country. And with all of that under the name of Hightower EV Solutions, we go to our customers with a total solution and being able to provide a quality product in the EV charging space. And that is, again, how you pivot when you actually see where your market is going. Not wait until the hockey puck is gone, the puck has gone beyond you, but meet the puck where it's going and get there early and then be a part of the change in which your industry happens to be going. So with all of that being said, the number one thing is that it's possible. And, you know, I say it's possible because I'm possible. So nothing's impossible, because I am one of those individuals who took on the challenges and continue to drive, strive, and be my best every day. Try to do what I say I can do. You know, one of the biggest things that you can really do is really tell someone that no. And that no could be the most valuable thing in the world, rather than fail at a task that you know you cannot do. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Brendan and open it up for questions.
We'd love to take some questions, so please feel free to put some questions in the chat. Steve, let me ask you a question. What I heard in your commentary was about how you and your organization made key decisions at certain periods of time that led you into either new businesses, or led you to take on expansions, or led you to create partnerships. And in someone who is in a role like yours, you're making decisions all of the time. When you're faced, this is a big picture business question, but when you're faced with a big fundamental decision that's going to affect your business, how do you go about making that? You've got a team full of people. What do you bring into the room to make one of those tough decisions?
Well, the basic, and I like football. So one of the things I say is you got to go deep and not wide. Okay. And I say not wide. There's, you know, I don't need to be in food service. I don't need to be in electrical business. I don't need to be in, you know, other types of businesses. I want to be in the energy space. And so I go deeper and deeper into energy. So as long as it fits within that sphere of energy, then and it has an effect as to what we're doing as it relates to our customers and our customer base. That is the fundamental thought process as to whether or not it's something we should be doing and spending our time on. Yes, every now and then, from a personal standpoint, you might do a real estate investment or, you know, something like that on the side, but that's not your business and that's not your core. So understanding what your core and how that fits in the overall picture of your growth to get you where you have to go. And again, it's just so important that you really get into your associations, your trade associations, become a part of the industry. The industry has to know you. It's not good enough that you know the industry, but the industry has to know you. And the only way you can do that is be there side by side with them every time that they come, you know, and meet.
You know, I love that you say that. I think we first met maybe at an industry association called Sigma in Washington that I know that you have been involved with for a long time. I know we bumped into each other at a couple of those conferences over the years when I was in a previous role. A trade association, whether it's a chamber or whether it's an industry association, is so important. You just meet so many different people and you get exposed to so many new ideas. So thanks for pointing that out, and thanks for shedding some light on that. We have one question in the chat. I can't tell if it's in the chat. Spencer, you might be able to help me out. It looks like Asaf Wutawanashi. I might venture a guess on the pronunciation, but I don't know how to make that. What do I do here, Spencer? Oh, here. How is OPEC moving to raise gas prices going to affect the trucking business? Great question.
Well, actually, OPEC is actually reducing their output. That was announced over the last 48 hours, which would then in turn increase prices. And so a lot of people think that, okay, well, it's the president or it's this gentleman or any one individual that is controlling prices. No, it's a cartel. And it's on a global scale in which prices go up and prices go down. And unfortunately, their cost is pretty constant, but they, in order to be respected in the global marketplace, you go up and down with them. I caution that you will begin to see higher prices only because OPEC has began to reduce their output. And as you know, the market is short. And when I say the market is short, you had an excess amount of product coming from Russia and Venezuela and other countries that we can no longer buy from. And therefore that gap in the marketplace has created a short in the marketplace, which in turn create prices to go up, because the demand is higher than what the supply is. And so as long as that imbalance remains, you'll probably continue to see higher prices begin to come into the marketplace.
All right. More questions. This is great. Asif says, thanks. He wants to know, Asif wants to know how I can hedge against that. But I might let you, you got a quick answer for that? Because then I got two other questions.
You can buy futures, okay?
Uh-oh. I want to make sure that the lawyers know that this does not represent stock or trading advice in any way, shape.
Absolutely. And I am not, but I can say, unless you're an expert or you're dealing with an expert, I would definitely be very, very cautious, because no one can predict what's going to happen tomorrow with gas prices. No one. And if someone tells you they know, then you better run from them, because it's just really, it'll change tomorrow. Okay. And we've been in situations where during the pandemic, we were buying fuel for 35 cents because nobody was buying fuel. The market was not moving. Tanks were full. They could not move it. They had to pay to get it out, because product continues to have to be come through the refineries, because the refineries can't be totally shut down. And now you got product in tanks and tankers and nowhere for it to go, because restaurants were closed, people weren't traveling, it really, again, when you have so much supply, then the price goes down. And that's why during the pandemic, prices was at their very lowest. But to know what the world economy is going to happen, what's going to happen in North Korea, that may change everything in an instant. Those are the kind of factors that actually affect your price of gas. And believe me, it's not an individual, it's a global occurrence.
All right, two quick rapid fires. These are great questions. And I appreciate that the group has taken an opportunity to ask questions of a smart and savvy business leader. But Dick Craybill asks, on integrity, how do you convince a potential customer that you can service them when you're already servicing their major competitor? Example, the Ford and GM discussion that you talked about. What do you lean into when you go into that room?
Well, industries like utilities and automotive, they really look to see if you understand their industry. And so it's not uncommon, because again, gasoline is gasoline. 92 octane is 92 octane. It comes out of the pipeline, actually states what it's going to be. And BP, Shell, and Exxon and Marathon, before they put their product in the pipeline to come upstream, it all has to meet the same spec. So while you're thinking that when you go to a Shell station, you're really buying a Shell product, no, you're buying a generic product, okay, that could be made by Marathon or could have been made by Exxon. It has a drip of additive to make them say that it's theirs, but it's really all the same product. So that you find that, when I go and talk to a utility, they want to know have you ever done business with other utilities? When I go to a strong industrial facility, they want to know what have you done in a plant like AK Steel that I feel comfortable that you can come into our plant and do the same. Have you ever been into a nuclear plant before? Yes, we have a nuclear plant over here with Duke. Okay, well, Vistra says, well, okay, well, at least he understands that environment. So it's really a positive versus a negative that you have those different markets, because again, people want to make sure that you understand their business, because it's a very critical item. And just like that initial fields business, can you be there and not shut down lines? And you have to do one to know that you can do another one.
Yeah, I love it. Thomas, can I ask one more?
Absolutely. This is
Last
great.
one from, thank you, Dick, for that question. Steve, thanks for the answer. Sean Baker, who is at the CSO and the POPs, says, it sounds like you have a high functioning team, which I can attest. I know many of the people on Steve's team, and it takes work to build, but when you're growing your team as they are at the CSO and POPs, what's the one thing that you look for when you're identifying the right fit? Do you have a one secret in an interview where you say that person's got it?
Each and every time that you go out to make a hire, you hire the best possible person at that particular time. You don't ask about their politics. You don't ask about, anything but what you are capable of doing. And each, in any given time period, there is a pool of individuals that you have to choose from. And, each and every time, for that particular function, you just try to get the best possible people. That's not always affordable to a small startup. However, whatever you can get, it's got to be the best possible person you can get at that time. And don't think of terms of people being overqualified. I mean, that is where your knowledge is going to come from. And don't fear someone taking your place, because it moves you up. It gives you the ability to move up as an organization. And those are the kind of people that you're looking for each and every time. Don't always succeed in terms of making the right decision, but you got to continue to hone in on that skill set.
It's a great end to an awesome conversation this morning, Steve. I can't say thank you enough for the time that you've given us both this morning, but just over decades of service to this community's business community. So I'm grateful for it, Steve. Thank you very much for being here this morning. I'm going to turn it now back to Thomas Deere, who's got a great rest of the program. It's been fun being with you all. Have a great rest of the morning.
Thank you for having me.
Steve,
Thanks,
Thomas.
Brendan. Thanks, Brendan, and thank you, Steve. What a lesson in success. And it all starts, I think you started off your discussion right away. It starts with integrity. Steve, you are a true champion of the region. We thank you for that. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce two chamber members who have been making an impact on the community. First up is George Goldhoff, the president of the Hard Rock Casino Cincinnati. George has 30 years of experience in the hospitality and gaming industry. He joined Hard Rock Casino Cincinnati in March of 2020 and led the rebranding and introduction of the new brand to Greater Cincinnati. He is active in the Cincinnati community and leads the Hard Rock Cares program that has supported dozens of Cincinnati charities with donations exceeding $350,000. No matter what you want to play, Hard Rock has your game. There's over 100,000 square feet of exciting action-packed choices. Plus, at Hard Rock Casino, you'll discover a wide selection of excellent dining options and a variety of bars. George, tell us more about Hard Rock Cincinnati.
Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, everybody, and appreciate the opportunity to present today. And Mr. Hightower, really enjoyed your comments. Look forward to meeting you in person one day. As Thomas said, my name is George Goldhoff. I'm the president of Hard Rock Cincinnati. And I've been in gaming, hospitality, entertainment. I think those terms are a bit interchangeable and have changed over the decades. I've been in Cincinnati for almost 3 years now. I started with Hard Rock approximately three years ago. My wife and my two Australian Shepherds moved into OTR, fell in love with it, and have been there ever since. Next slide. So just like Mr. Hightower mentioned, our company is built really on missions, mottos, and values. And we're human. We can make a lot of mistakes, and we often do. But we need to live up to really our mottos, which were developed over 50 years ago by our two founders that started the first Hard Rock Cafe in London in 1971. And our founders, Peter Morton and Isaac Tigret, were really two hippies. Peter Morton from Chicago, Isaac Tigret from Tennessee, and they found each other in London, and they wanted to have American food, a burger. And so they opened up the first Hard Rock Cafe in 1971. And our current owners are the Seminole Tribe of Florida, which got involved in the brand in the early 2000s. And then they unified the brand with all cafes, hotels, and casinos. In 2016, they bought the brand for somewhere just around $1 billion in 2016. The Seminole Tribe of Florida is a sovereign government in Florida where they started, and they have a distinction of the only tribe in North America that have never been conquered. They never signed a treaty with the U.S. government, and that's a whole nother story. But they're smart, innovative organization that is really thoughtful and caring for all of the team members. We are in 250 locations in 72 countries. We have about 200 cafes, 50 hotels, 17 casinos, and in the pipeline, we have integrated resorts, looking to build integrated resorts in Athens, Greece, Barcelona, Spain, Mexico City, Montego Bay. We've partnered with the Tejon tribe, which is about an hour north of LA. And then regionally, we just opened a temporary facility in Bristol, Virginia, Rockford, Illinois, Northern Indiana, Ottawa, Canada, and of course in Cincinnati, we're growing, and we've announced that we'll be building a hotel. One of the items that I wanted to bring up, you may have heard it on either local or national news 2 weeks ago. The Tribal Council and our CEO and senior leadership recognized that we were not competitive in terms of recruitment and hiring. And quite frankly, we wanted to ensure that all non-tipped team members had a competitive wage. And so we announced that we made a $100 million investment in North America. And that is to say that all non-tipped team members, whether they're cooks or stewards or bar porters or EVS, will be starting at a minimum, security officers, a minimum of $18 an hour. So to just give you a little bit more context and insight into sort of the thoughtfulness of the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I go to the next slide. Our business is very stable. Some people say it's a little bit of a monopoly. We're incredibly regulated with high barriers to entry. We have 4 casinos in Ohio, and then 7 racinos. And within our competitive set, there are 7 casinos, I would say, within about a 30-minute drive of our front door that we compete directly with. As I mentioned, we're quite diversified in terms of any hospitality or entertainment company, being in a variety of different continents, all of the continents, quite frankly, other than Antarctica. We have strong cash flow characteristics, but we also have high capital requirements. So those balance out quite nicely. And as I mentioned before, we're very opportunistic in terms of our growth. Our next slide, I know I have just a couple of minutes here. Wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into our operations. As you can see by this pie chart, the majority of all of our revenues come from slot operations. And then in the upper right-hand corner, the light blue and the gray are both table games. And we look at it as retail table games and high limit table games. And that's about 30% of our revenues. We have a very simple business, quite frankly. We have very little foreign currency, and we have almost no accounts receivable to speak of. Recent developments, I won't go through the full list, but really the top one was the most important one when we transactioned when we completed the transaction in September of 2019. We realized that we had to build a high performing team. And so we started there, created our strategic brand rollout. And we've touched every single square foot of this casino in terms of facility. We've changed our marketing, and we've developed our team members and our leaders and introduced a world-class iconic entertainment brand into Cincinnati. I go to the next slide. You know, when I got here, my family has been here since the 1880s. My great-great-grandfather immigrated here from Europe. There's been Goldhoffs in the Cincinnati area. My dad went to UC, moved away, raised us. But I realized when I stood out in front of what was then the future home of Hard Rock, and I looked around the neighborhood, I realized there was a lot of work to be done. And part of what we do in every single location around the world is that the team members take great pride in supporting and making a difference with philanthropic efforts within the community. And so we've really dedicated our efforts to really about 10 blocks outside of our front door. And here are some of the major partnerships in the community that we've affected. The next slide is the community investment. You can see that we've spread out pretty broadly, and we have a number of initiatives throughout the community, again, predominantly right within walking distance of our front door. And then the final slide, it's more of maybe a 15-second infomercial, which is to say that right now we do host a lot of non-for-profit and profit organizations here, and we have really the ultimate party palace in Cincinnati. We have 40,000 square feet of first-class four-diamond catering and banquet space. We have a whole variety of food and beverage outlets for private parties or special occasions or just coming in after work. And so really proud to be part of the chamber. And I think my time's up. So everybody, rock on. Thank you.
George, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I can attest, Hard Rock Cincinnati is more than meeting its mission statement and creating experiences that rock. You guys definitely rock. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Next up is Dr. James Abbott, the board certified orthopedic surgeon at Best Surgery and Therapies. Dr. Abbott has 15 years in clinical practice and is responsible for diagnosing problems that affect muscle, bones, and joints. He also provides conservative treatment and surgery for degenerative diseases and infections with a specialization in hip and knee surgery such as direct anterior total hip arthroplasty. Best is the leading clinic for minimally invasive spine and orthopedic care in Cincinnati, offering a range of care from conservative treatments to minimally invasive procedures for spine and orthopedic needs. Welcome, Dr. Abbott. I think Spencer was going to play a video.
Thomas, this thing just disappeared on me, so give me 1 second.
Okay, just everyone give us one moment, please. No matter how many times you practice this and run through trials, there's always technical glitches. Not always, but they arise from time to time. That's why we have specialists like Spencer Mapes behind the scenes, making sure that these monthly member briefings and events are seamless as possible.
I'm gonna forget this time. I'm putting this in my car, so I had it forgotten. You already done it. It's been close. I had it pretty early.
While we're waiting for Spencer, I think back to, oh, here we go.
Dr. Abbott with the Surgery and Therapies. We're located at the corner of Gilbert Avenue and Eden Park Drive, right across from beautiful Eden Park. And I'm here to give you a guided tour of our 37,000 square foot facility, home of the most state-of-the-art care when it comes to joint replacement and spine care in Cincinnati. Floors with diagnostic imaging and the procedural area on the bottom floor. The first floor will house our physical therapy department, which is moving in next week. And our flagship floor is the top floor where our orthopedic clinic and outpatient surgery center are housed. Procedural capabilities on our basement floor consist of full suite x-ray for both standing and sitting films, as well as a procedural area that can be utilized to perform fluoroscopically guided injections for patients in a safe environment. We also have an MRI, which will be delivered next month to provide state-of-the-art imaging with 1.5 Tesla magnet here on site. 3 main operating areas where we perform surgeries from anything consisting of simple injections under fluoroscopic guidance all the way up through total hip and total knee replacement. Your kind attention today, and we would love to welcome you to Best Surgery and Therapies for all of your orthopedic and spine care needs. Once inside our facility, you'll be greeted at the front door by Ty, our reception excellence personnel, and guided to where you need to go within Best. Our health clinic is operated on the second floor. As you can see, we have a full staff ready and able to help our patients through their episode of care, whether it's questions about work-related issues, questions about their injury, treatment options, or liaison with other facilities in the area, such as other hospitals and physical therapy groups. Our whole team here is dedicated to making sure the patient has a seamless experience with their care. For our more complex surgeries, such as hip and knee replacement, we have state-of-the-art equipment such as the HANA table. We have a Brain Labs device to assist with computer-aided hip replacement surgery and a Corey robotic-assisted total knee platform, which give our patients the best chance at an optimal outcome from their outpatient hip or knee replacement surgery. So you've seen a lot of the beauty of the facility and the equipment that we have at Best, but it's really the people that make it happen. This is how we take care of patients in an awesome fashion so that they have the best experience with their recovery and the safest and best outcome for the surgery that they need.
Dr. Abbott, thank you for that tour. That was impressive. And I encourage everybody to visit the building. It is incredible. And when he says it's state of the art, it is state of the art to the max. And I can also attest that the people there are state of the art. Thank you, Dr. Abbott, and Best Surgery and Therapies. Thank you. I want to thank these members for being part of our monthly member briefing. If you're interested in being part of the monthly member briefing, please reach out to me at tdeer@cincinnatiChamber.com. The Cincinnati Regional Chamber has a total of 10 benefit partners that enhance your businesses on an everyday basis. For our benefit partner, we're excited to have Aaron Muro, Senior Advisor of i3 Verticals, who is our credit card processing partner. i3 Verticals' mission is helping you get paid in a faster, safer, and smarter way. They help businesses be more competitive and profitable by learning more about your needs and then making customized recommendations using the latest technology and services to help you maximize your savings. i3 processes over 4 billion per year in payments and has a top 5 industry retention rating. Something that speaks for itself is i3 Verticals has been a partner with the Chamber for over 15 years. That's how much we value what they do and their partnership. Aaron, welcome and show us how easy it is to save.
Good morning. Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to present today and to talk about, like Thomas said, what's been a long-standing partnership with the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber. And Spencer, if you can advance that slide. And that is very relevant that Thomas talks about the length of this partnership, because think about trust. There's a lot of processing companies that would love to be in the position that we are with the Chamber, but it speaks to how we do things and the trust that they have that we're going to do the right thing. Furthermore, like Thomas mentioned, we are in the top 5% retention rates in our industry, which is really extraordinary. The bottom line is that when people are with us, they just don't leave. The reason they don't is because we really offer, world-class service and a real personal, touch to an industry that, let's face it, we understand that the industry doesn't have the greatest reputation. It's unfortunate and it's unfortunately well-deserved. But, personally, that is one of the things that sort of fuels my passion for this business, is because I really enjoy the opportunity to sort of pull back the curtain for business owners and really show them what has behind the sort of modus operandi for the industry, which is kind of a confusion by design thing, and to pull back the curtain and really educate people and educate chamber members on how payments work, whether they end up going with us or not. That is one of the benefits of your chamber membership. Spence, can you advance that one more time? So what do? We do a lot of, wear a lot of different hats in the payment space. One thing is we are very, very specialized in business-to-business payments. We have technology that allows us to process corporate and business level cards, at lower rates. If you are a company doing business-to-business credit card or ACH payments, we are somebody that you really should talk to. We have all kinds of different programs, though. We have cash discounting programs that, virtually eliminate fees. Obviously not for every type of merchant, but there are merchants that it's very appropriate with. We are not just credit card processors. We have a full AR payment solutions like our bill and pay product, which has seamless integrations into QuickBooks and Xero. We have electronic invoicing that allows you to send invoices to your customers with payment links, mobile payment solutions. The bottom line is, if you accept credit card payments, no matter the industry, i3 Merchant Solutions can help you do it better. One of the things that we always say is to get paid faster. That is something that I hear constantly, especially in our business-to-business vertical with regard to invoicing and things like that. So doesn't matter what your business is, we are a benefit to you as a chamber member, and the way that you get the most return on your investment as a chamber member is to utilize the benefits and the things that are available to you. You wouldn't join a gym and not go and use any of the machines. So Spence, last slide, please. So what you can do is you can reach out to me. We do cost analyses for companies that are currently processing, or if you're not processing. And when we do a cost analysis, this isn't just a beat the rate. Of course, we want to save you money. We want to make you more profitable. But this is more about a business conversation and talking about what needs you have from a payment standpoint, because we can save people time as well, which I think we can all agree is at a premium these days. So my contact information is there. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to present this morning. And I'm going to turn it back over to Thomas Steer. Have a great morning, everyone.
Thank you, Aaron. When you talk to Aaron, there's two outcomes. You're either going to save money or you're going to have peace of mind knowing that you're in the right program. So I encourage you to connect with him and take him up on his offer. There is no cost. Thank you, Aaron and I3 Verticals, for your partnership. Joining us now is our very own Katie Egan, the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Chamber. The Chamber's Government Affairs team develops and advocates for innovative and smart policies related to economic development, transportation, and inclusion. They engage with community leaders and policymakers on government issues and policies affecting our region and your business. Katie, get us up to speed on the happenings in the world of government affairs.
Hi, Thomas, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I understand that I'm probably the last thing waiting between you and your next cup of coffee, so I'll keep this brief. We have Election Day coming up very quickly, and if you have watched television anytime between Labor Day and now, you know that those ads are flying. There are a lot of really hotly contested races happening in the tri-state area, and I want to bring you up, draw your attention to one date, and that date is October 11th. If you live and vote in Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio, that is the last day that you're able to register to vote or to change your voter registration if you've recently moved or had any other kind of qualifying changes that would need you to reach out to your local Board of Elections or your Secretary of State's office to make sure that your voter registration is up to date. Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana all have big races on the ballot. They all have U.S. Senate seats up, and they all have their members of Congress and their state legislative seats that will be up on the ballot on November 8th. Here in Ohio, the U.S. Senate race has been hotly contested between J.D. Vance and Congressman Tim Ryan. This race there's about 3 percentage point difference between the candidates in the latest polling, and that's well within the margin of error in that poll. So the candidates have about 3 points between them, but the margin of error in that race is about 4%. So that race could really go either way. And what is especially important about that race is that the balance of power in the United States Senate really runs right through Ohio. So that race is being it's being watched very closely across the United States. There's been a lot of money that has flown into that race, and there will continue to be money pouring into that race, ads on TV, articles in the paper. Watch it closely. It's really going to come down to the wire on Election Day. Also, our congressional districts in Ohio look a lot different during this election cycle. And here in Ohio's first congressional district, Congressman Steve Hightower is facing off against current Cincinnati council member Greg Landsman in a district that now includes all of the city of Cincinnati. That the city had previously been parsed up between 2 congressional districts. We are hosting with partners at WCET and WVXU a debate between Congressman Hightower and Councilmember Landsman. That's taking place on October 13th, next Thursday evening, 8:00 p.m. It will be broadcast live on WCET TV. It will be streamed on WCET's Facebook page, the Chamber's Facebook page, and WVXU's Facebook page. If you've got somewhere to be, if you're driving downtown to take advantage of Blink that evening, make sure to tune in on your car's radio on WVXU. We look forward to sharing more about election analysis after November 8th, and you'll be sure to hear about our upcoming trip to Dallas-Fort Worth and the lessons that we've learned on the ground in Dallas. We look forward to connecting with you at a monthly member briefings shortly.
Thank you, Katie, for all you do to advocate for businesses in the region. You're a terrific partner, and all you do here for us is fantastic. And as Katie said, we encourage you to get out and vote. That is your opportunity. That is your voice. Get out and vote. Thank you, Katie. In closing, a couple upcoming events that you'll want to know about. The first is Cincy Social Hour, which is October 11th. The second is our in-person Greater Cincinnati Safety Council meeting, which will be October 12th. And of course, Blink, the 13th and 16th of this month. It'll be bigger and better than ever. And I encourage you to mark your calendars for the 2022 Fifth Third Bank Diversity Leadership Symposium, which will be November 2nd at 8 o'clock. If you've been to the symposium in the past, you know you're in for an enlightening experience. And this year's keynote speaker is an absolute superstar, Daisy Auger Dominguez. And finally, join us November 3rd for our next monthly briefing at 8 a.m. You'll hear from our keynote speaker, Gregory Crawford, the 22nd president of Miami University. To learn more about these events and others, please go to cincinnatiChamber.com/events. Everybody, thank you for being on the call today. Make it a great day. Make it a great week. Thank you.